Welcome to the show.
To the show, show.
Show.
I'm
Fun.
Elon, and I'm James.
No one will understand that. There's like three
Nope.
people on the planet right now. They're like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
Um, what's up, everybody? Welcome to recording of the Old Souls and Seekers podcast. I think this is episode 275. If you haven't listened to the previous episode, we have an awesome guest by the name of Stephen Kessler, who is the author of The Five Personality Patterns. It's one of the books that we recommend the most to our clientele and people we work with in terms of just basically understanding yourself, constitutions, character styles, how they were formed, what ruptures you had in your development. It was a really fun conversation. He's a sweet man and highly recommend listening to it if you haven't listened to it yet. With that said, Elon and I are mind, body, soul enthusiasts, as I imagine every human being in some respect is, because you all have mind, bodies, and souls. But oftentimes when we do these, we focus on the mind and we focus on the spirit and energy and awareness, and we often don't talk about the body. Although this is an area of great interest for Elon and myself, especially around health, and as we well, Elon's already passed, but as we kind of tinker into our I'm right at the end of my 30s here. Elon's in his early 40s. We are realizing what most people at this age realize is that there's, some kind of, you know, expected degradation in terms of like how the body's responding. And based on research and experiences that we have, like there are things that you can be doing to optimize your health, optimize yourself at this age. And even though you might have, a mental age of a certain, like I'm now like 40 years old for Elon, his biological age is significantly younger. Elon specifically is just in freaking phenomenal shape. And most of you guys probably don't know this. He is sub 6% body fat, which is fucking insane for a 40-year-old to have. He's ripped, he's active, he does really, really interesting workouts, he plays tennis a lot. I've kind of fallen off the pommel horse a few years ago. I was probably in that 7 to 6% range, but I'm swiftly moving back in that direction now. And it's not the primary focus of my health, but there are certain things that we're learning about and also doing in our lives that are helping us kind of like navigate what's happening with our bodies to a better extent. And so we thought it'd be fun to have a conversation about what it is that we're doing, and then kind of inform you guys about like some tools that are out there right now that are well within financial reach for most people and that they could be doing. And so yeah, thought that'd be a fun way to have the conversation.
Yeah, and I just want to offer as we kind of like navigate the things that we share. First of all, we're not medical practitioners. This is, everything that we're going to share here is just our opinion. Feel free to consult whoever you need to consult to. Nothing that we say here is like the truth. This is just things that we have been playing with. The other thing that I want to say is Guy and I have always been interested in fitness, and like overall feeling good in our physical body. But what I will say is that I believe our focus of the why or how we treat the body has drastically shifted as we've gone down the path of what we call here the awareness effect, and as we've delved with awareness into our body, and things that used to make sense for us from a physical exertion or exercise regimen type thing, like today, are just absolute no's. And that doesn't mean that they're not good. It just means that as we learn to listen more and more to our body, naturally, what happens, and we say this all the time, like in all of our programs, people will join our program and miraculously begin to lose weight where it's been really, really tough for them to do. I find that as you practice the awareness effect and as awareness, you're able to hold it in your body more and more, you just start naturally making better decisions. And like it's very easy for you not to necessarily look at a book, but basically like figure out, hey, this feels good in my body, this does not feel good in my body, etc. So I just want to point to the conversation of like, I had a friend here just yesterday, and him and his buddy have been on this kick of like trying to lift heavy, um, you know, personal bests, every single whatever. And I was I I have so little interest in that because it seems so wasteful. Like this is my one body, right? Like I have this one body in this lifetime. I can't in 10 years go, you know what? I'm done with this one. Shop, give me the next one. Like cartilage, bones, tendons, ligaments, like these are the only ones you got. Now granted, like there's a lot of things that we can talk about here today that can help you do that, but it's like why are you putting 400 pounds on your back and squatting it? Like how is that benefiting your life? I get that it makes your ego feel good, and I get that it makes your legs bigger, and like you feel really strong and all that stuff. But like, that's not functionally good for your body, especially as you get older. And we're gonna talk about a lot of things that we've been doing, and but I did want to create that. That's kind of like all of the things that we have been reaching for of late, and I don't mean to put words in Guy's mouth, but I'm sure he agrees. Like we have been reaching for from that place of alignment and from that place of awareness. And the one other piece that I want to say is like when you start to do energetic work, it becomes very, very clear, very, very fast that this physical body is what is going to hold that charge. And as you open the body and the system more and more and more, you actually begin to hold larger and larger charges of energy, meaning that you need a physical system to be able to hold those charges. Otherwise, you can't, keep progressing in that world. And so it's become very important to us to like put the best fuel in that body, to figure out what makes the body feel good, internally, externally, what allows us to hold these charges, what allows us to sleep better, all of these different things in order to keep delving like deeper and deeper into that alignment.
Yeah. And just to kind of actually backpedal on what you said, I think there is some value in heavyweights. Yesterday I was, we'll talk about it, but one of the things that we're listening to right now that we highly recommend is Tony Robbins' new book called Life Force with Peter Diamante or Diamandis. Yeah, Diamandis. He's the founder of X Prize. Very smart guy, and they have produced a book which is really like revealing the cutting edge of science, like medicine science right now, what's happening, and then also what we can expect. And one of the things that's really at the forefront of medical science right now is basically life extension, well beyond anything that most of us could have possibly anticipated would be practical even for our lives. Like it may be possible in about 10 years that many people will start living into 120s, even 160 years old. They have medical research that's being done right now where they can completely control the age of mice going forwards and backwards. They're doing the same thing with chimpanzees. I'm not going to get into all that. Do your own research on this. But basically, what we're moving towards is this idea of escape velocity with aging, and really starting to look at aging as more of a disease than just something that you have to like accept that happens to you. And so it could be that, if you're a healthy 40-year-old with, a biophysicality of a 30-year-old, that you may be able to freeze at that point in your life for 50 or 60 years and have the body and energy that you have, right now, if you take steps to start taking care of yourself. So they predict currently that for every year of medical science, we're getting to that stage of compounding data acquisition in terms of what's happening in the body. And so for every year of medical science right now, they predict that they're giving back about a quarter year of life on average to people. In about 12 years,
That's today.
that's today. And in 12 years from now, they will predict that we're going to be at a 1-to-1 ratio, meaning for every year of medical science, the human race will get back 1 year of life, which means we've now reached escape velocity, right? And then we'll probably move beyond that. For every year of life, they'll give you back a year and a quarter and stuff like that. And so it's important to realize that there are tools out there right now that many doctors don't even know about, between stem cell research, stem cells, and peptides, and all sorts of pain management therapies and stuff like that. That, again, like, it's all in the book. I'm not going to go into all of them, but these are absolutely things worth researching if that's of interest to you. I mean, like, you can't force yourself to want to do these things, but, like, personally for me, I'm very curious, even from a spiritual perspective. Okay, people live, let's say, to 80, 90 years old. Maybe they have a meditation practice since they were 20 or 30 years old. They're a practice meditator for 50, 60 years. What happens when we have people doing that for 100?
Exactly.
120? Like, what kind of wisdom is going to start coming through the human race? And somebody's asking for the name of the book. It's called Life Force. Okay, and it is a little bit of a promo for all these companies that Tony is invested in, but, like, that's just because those are wise investments on his part. The fact that he's choosing to talk about them openly is his own choice. So highly recommend that. And one of the things that I haven't heard them talk about, I'm not all the way through the book, but if you guys are watching this right now, you can see Elon's got one on too. This kind of looks like this black patch that we're wearing on the back of our arms, and these are continuous glucose monitors, or CGMs. And these are, they have a very small needle, which I know can be scary when you hear about putting a needle in your arm, but they're very, very small. You can barely feel it going in, and you certainly don't feel it after it's in. So there might be like a split second of discomfort, and honestly, it's really not that bad. And then you put this kind of like waterproof, sweat-proof kind of sticky tape on it, just to keep it on there so it doesn't get knocked off by some kind of hit or whatever. So you can work out in this, you can take saunas in this, you can go swimming in this, sleep in this. And these things will continuously monitor your glucose levels moment by moment for 14 days at a time. Okay? And so the company behind this is called Libre Link. However, what we recommend is, if you're interested, and we'll talk about why you might want to do this, is there's a company called levelshealth.com. Again, we'll put this all in the show notes, levelshealth.com, and you can go over there and sign up for their app, and their app is $199 a year, and then they have a subscription ongoing monthly for $199 a month, and they will send you two of these glucose monitors, so for 28 days of monitoring, essentially, and you can keep it continuously going, or just use it for, like, data acquisition, like Elon and I are. Like, I'll probably do this for the next month and a half, and then I'll be good for a while. And then maybe down the road, if I'm having like certain challenges, I might do it again. So why do you want to do this? And again, without getting into all the crazy science behind this, but like, your glucose levels is one of the most fundamental things to your health, right? Like, you might be a really, really healthy person. Again, I know people who are doing this right now, but when they put on the glucose monitor, found out that they're pre-diabetic.
Yeah.
Look super healthy, but they have had a lot of inflammations, things like that. And here's why. It's like, many of us think we know what healthy eating is. We think we understand. But the truth is, just like spirituality, when you really learn about awareness and cultivating that, there's nobody on this planet that could tell that body how to get healthy. There are ideas, right? But at the end of the day, the body itself has its own intelligence. It knows how to get healthy. We need to get the fuck out of the way, or have the appropriate data to play with, or the appropriate environment to put that body into an environment where it can heal itself. Food is medicine. That's just what it is, right? Like, there's everything you put into your body has some sort of side effect. So you're either feeding your health or you're feeding your sickness. That's essentially what it comes down to. I know a lot of people don't put value on organic food, but whatever you believe, if you're not eating organic, you are eating pesticides, Roundup Ready, things of this nature. I'm sure if I make claims here, these companies will, I'm not big enough for them to give a shit, but like, at the end of the day, like, there is insurmountable evidence around pesticides and the degradation of health in your body, specifically with the glyphosate and what that does to your gut microbiome and all that kind of stuff. Again, won't get into all these things in deeply here, but your glucose levels have so much to do with your ongoing health, right? Even if you are very conscious of not eating sugar, but you're eating a lot of carbs, all those carbs are turning into sugar in your body, and there's an effect. So to have something that's monitoring not a moment in time, like when you do a blood test or take a blood sample and see your glucose levels, but continuously see the impact of food on your glucose levels throughout the day, this is going to be very eye-opening for most people. Okay, you might be like, well, I've heard an apple a day makes the doctor go away. I mean, the what's that old saying? An apple a day,
An apple a day keeps the
doctor away.
dentist away or whatever. I don't know.
No, not the dentist, but the doctor. The doctor.
Yeah, one of those
Not,
things.
that's like killing your teeth. But that may not be true. I have now seen again people who wear this and have massive spikes, like unhealthy massive spikes from eating apples, right? And that might vary if you just put a little fat before you eat the apple, and then you'd have a very small glucose thing. So it's like again, because your body is its own machine, it takes in food. You have your own lineage, genomic material, like where your family is from and probably was in that location for potentially millions of years before they traveled to a new location. We eat out of season. There's toxins in our food, and there's natural toxins in there. This is the reason why, like by putting this in you could put food in your body, and over a 2 hour stretch or so, see the exact effect that this food is having on you. Like your wife
You
might
want
have.
to you want to hear something interesting? Like, I mean, both Guy and I eat fairly clean. I can just tell you, like, we both intermittent fast. I think that's honestly been like one of the greatest. Started doing it years and years ago. Originally with like a bulletproof coffee in the morning, but then just tapered off and just intermittent fast. So basically, what that means is we eat only in a window. So I'll stop eating at 8 p.m. at night is like my absolute latest cutoff. Usually it's like closer to 7, and then I won't eat my first meal till like I haven't had a meal yet. It's almost 2, so I'll usually do like a protein shake at like anywhere between 1 to 2:30, somewhere in that range. So like the window for eating is, let's say, at max 1 to 8, right? So you're talking about 17 hours of fasting. And there's so much research about autophagy and how your body is just cleansing itself during that time. It's
Just define just let's define autophagy. Autophagy is your cell's ability to detox itself. So it's like
correct.
if you're constantly putting food in your body and you're digesting, you're basically tasking your body with a very energy intensive task. So by not eating, and this is why restrictive fasts in general are in the short term are very healthy, is because you can enter autophagy and it lets your body just release all these toxins that normally would be holding on to.
Yeah, and they have found, like, they even talk about it in this book, like fasting is one of the best ways that a person can get into health relatively quickly. Um, and just as a society and a culture, like, we eat way too much food. Like, no one really needs 3 full square meals a day. In fact, like, here's the test, right? And this is how it kind of started working for me. So I would my original experiment, and we talk about this quite a bit in our programs if you work with us, but like we're all about running experiments. Run an experiment for 2 weeks or 30 days or whatever it is, and like test it out for yourself. Does this help me? Does this hurt me? Does this feel good? Does this not feel good? Like, you get to be the gauge. Don't listen to this guru or this diet or that diet. Like, it's your body. And like I said, your body has its own stressors. You have your own life. Like, you get to be that for yourself. The thing is, you have to give something like a good go. And 30 days tends to be like a pretty good trial run for almost everything, right? You're not going to be able to like do something for a week and go, oh my God, I figured all this stuff out. No, it's like your body for the first 2 weeks of intermittent fasting, like you're going to feel like shit. If you have a shitty diet, trust me, like your first 2 weeks are not going to be fun. You might even have flu-like symptoms because your body is like purging all of these toxins out that it normally doesn't have the opportunity to do. But so I ran this experiment, right? And like I would drink the bulletproof coffee and it would give me this wild, amazing energy till around 2 p.m. And then I would eat. And it was the first time that I had enough awareness and consciousness to go, oh, when I eat this, I actually get tired after lunch. How many of you guys eat and after lunch, maybe 20, 30 minutes after lunch, you're like, you're like dragging ass, and then you need that cup of coffee, right, to like boost you back up. You're not dragging ass because it's 2 p.m. and you're tired. You're dragging ass because you just ate food that your body does not like, or it takes a lot of effort to process,
Hmm.
or you ate too much, or whatever it might be. Like, and so I started gauging, and I would go like, oh, when I eat this, my energy levels stayed the same and I could keep consistent. When I eat this, my energy levels would drop. And I would just start kind of in my own system go, good for me, not good for me, good for me, not good for me. And then I started to tweak what I would do as I would go through this. And I'll just walk you real quick through my process, right? Like what my lunches used to be was I would eat, like chicken or some sort of protein and veggies. Again, like a normal, healthy lunch. And then I was like, okay, it's too much food, right? So instead of like 2 helpings of protein, I went to 1 helping of protein. So instead of like 2 pieces of chicken, it was 1 piece of chicken. I was like, okay, slightly better, but still not great. Then I switched to salads with the protein. And I was like, okay, better, but still not great. Let me try to remove the protein altogether from my salad. And I just started doing salads for lunch. And I felt good. I really felt good. Now, fast forward a bunch of years, I'm talking to a friend of mine, and my wife will agree, and I can't believe I'm about to say this on a podcast, but like I would eat and I would get gassy, right? So like I would fart often, like it would just happen. And I was talking to my buddy of mine, and he's like, listen, for certain people, fiber, like leafy green vegetables, their body is great. Like it can break it down, it's easy, it helps. For other people, that same fiber is destructive. Like it makes you bloated, it makes you gassy, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I'm like, wow, that's exactly my experience. But everyone tells you like kale is great for you and leafy greens and cruciferous vegetables and all this stuff is like really good for you. And he was like, I stopped eating it and I've never felt better. And I was like, wow, this is really fascinating. So just when we were in Utah, like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, I'm running an experiment. So like I'm on the tail end of my experiment. I've taken salads completely out of my diet. And mind you, I fucking love salads. Like this was not an easy thing for me to remove. Like I really love salads. But I come out and I can tell you wholeheartedly, and my wife will tell you, she will agree, like no gas, no bloatiness. Like it's gone. To the point where yesterday I ate like a whole steak and potatoes and some zucchini and like nothing. Literally nothing. I've eaten pizza, which I thought I was like lactose intolerant and made me feel shitty. Nothing. No gas. So it's like, I'm telling you this because, again, like as you practice the awareness effect and as you tune more and more into your body, you will start to feel this intuitive way that your body's like more of this, more of that. So back to this thing real quick, like pho, which I love, Vietnamese pho, like one of my favorite things to eat. Super healthy, blah, blah, blah. Guess what? Highest glycemic spike of any food that I've tried. I've gone out and had a wine tasting dinner while having this thing, meaning like whatever, 3 glasses of wine or whatever it was, right? With like this food and that food and this food and that food, that barely spiked my glucose in comparison to what pho. So I did some research, right? Because now I got data and like now I research. Turns out that while the broth could be really healthy, I'm going to do a test with just broth and meat, but the noodles that they put in there is like 100 grams of carbs, and it's not good carbs. And so my body instantly is turning that to sugar. And like I had a 75 milligram spike when I first ate pho, which is like crazy.
That's insane. Yeah.
It's insane. I did the wine dinner like was less than 30.
Yeah. By the way, I same thing for sushi, because they actually add sushi, they add sugar into the rice to make it sweet. So like, yes, you're having fish that has good omega fats, but like your carb intake is so high, it's offsetting any health benefits. You're actually creating a serious inflammation problem in the body.
I really want to go now that you're mentioning it. I really want to go to a sushi dinner just to like do because like now they're like just go test stuff and see. I'm really curious, like I've drank beer on it. It was mild. The one thing with wine that was interesting, I will say this, it didn't spike so high, but my nighttime glucose kind of stayed pretty high throughout the night. So it wasn't so much of like a high spike, but it was like above normal for just a longer period of time. So that's at
Yeah.
least what I
And
noticed.
that's what I've seen too is like my choice today really impacts my day tomorrow.
Mm,
And also the other thing that like now I see is like how to mix and match food. Like if I am going to eat something that could like so kombucha for instance was my worst spike, right?
wow, interesting.
Which makes sense, right? Alcohol, sugar, da 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 da. But like
Yeah.
so like okay, I don't want to get rid of kombucha, but I now know like don't drink an entire bottle. Like go have like a little shot of it and enjoy because it was like a 50 or 60 point spike for me
Whoa.
and like held me there for like 2.5 hours. Like it like didn't come down for a long time.
Wow.
Right. And
Interesting.
somebody else might have a completely different response, but like I was drinking kombucha regularly a few times a week. Like now I would not do that anymore. It's clearly not to my benefit, right? So
And that's the thing, like, so I'm curious. I'm gonna drink kombucha because I want to see like if our bodies respond to it differently because each person has a different system.
sure. And I think for me and you, it would come to find that like, we have the similar genomic material, things of that nature. We probably would see similar things. But like just to backtrack a little bit with fasting again, we're not medical doctors. You got to do your own research and know your body. My wife is like one of the reasons we got into all this is my wife had major insights when she saw her sister put one of these on that the fact she's hypoglycemic and has almost lost her life multiple times, including when she gave birth, simply because she like didn't have a banana or like some food prior to labor. Won't go into all the stories here, but like my wife can't fast. Her system can't fast. She metabolizes so quickly food that if she starts fasting, it like almost kills her basically. So I'm just letting you guys know. Like I try to do, like me and Elon do a master cleanse once a year at least, like a 10-day fast. And my wife did it for one day and she almost like died the first night. Like that. That's like it just couldn't. And she got out of bed and like fell on the ground and was like shivering and like convulsing and
Wow.
stuff like that. And so like definitely not one size fits all, but again, all the more reason. And she can see at nighttime that her glucose levels are dropping dangerously low. And so a lot of people think when your glucose levels are high, that's dangerous. Like that just shows that you're probably like, your insulin response or lack thereof. But like a low glucose levels is like life threatening. So my wife has had to, it's not about her eating more sugar. In fact, it's actually about her eating a lot more fat. Like she just needs to get tons more fat into her diet, and then like, and so that what you're looking for with this is like not am I spiking or not spiking? Is you kind of want to start seeing a really level graph that when you're eating, it's not going too high, and then it kind of comes back down in a certain amount of time and like stays level throughout the day. And I could tell you from my first one to now I have my second one on, like my graph is so much more level than it was during the first one. So like again, these choices and these awarenesses really make a difference. And again, there might be stuff you're eating. Like I ate yogurt at a coffee shop. It's like 60 point spike for like 3 hours.
Wow.
Like really intense, right? Because again, it's not the yogurt I have at home. It's not plain yogurt. They put their granola on it with the bananas and the strawberries, and so there's like it's a sugar bomb essentially. And again, you're eating something that to the eye and to your logic might feel like something that's healthy. Like I would never go have that again. Like and these are things that I like.
This is the thing, like, and this is what's really important. You've eaten that many times before. That was not the first time, right?
Meant like there was a period of time I was eating that probably twice a week.
Okay. When you ate it, did you feel good? Like energy wise, like did you
I
fine,
wouldn't
right?
I wouldn't have known, and also it's not heavy in my belly, and that to me is usually like the indicator of don't eat that, and that there's like no heaviness from it. So
Yeah. And so that's the thing, like, for Guy and I, what we're adding, right, is like layers and layers of data and information. Because now, like, look, both of us have these rings, the Aura Ring. It helps track heart rate variability. It helps track heart rate. It helps track sleep. It helps track exercise, calorie burn, like all this stuff. Which, by the way, I found out, bro, these are highly inaccurate when it comes to actual exercise. At least for tennis, like when it tracked like 700 calories, the guy that had his Apple Watch on tracked 1,200. So let's say his is too high, mine's too low, say it's somewhere in the middle, but just, it was interesting to note.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
like,
I'm more interested in averages and baselines
right,
than real data, right? Like that's why I like.
exactly. And that's what I always say. It's not about like the number and comparing yourself to others. It's like, what's your baseline? And then above and below that baseline. And like, as we collect this data, it allows us to make choices for our bodies, for our health, for our lives from a very different place. First and foremost, though, was this awareness that came through and went in and went, oh, this no longer feels good. Like, Guy barely drinks any alcohol nowadays, right? Like, I have cut out all liquor. Like 2 years ago, just cannot drink liquor. Liquor has not touched my lips. Like, it does really bad things to my body. This past trip, when we just went to ski in Utah, I don't drink caffeine really anymore. But on this ski trip, I was drinking caffeine because, like, listen, you're skiing, you're tired. I was like, whatever, I'll get extra energy. So I was drinking like 1 to 2 cups a day. I became a rage monster. Like, and it was so vividly there that I could feel like I had no control over this anger and rage. And I'm not saying caffeine will do that to everyone, but for me and my system, because I have this high level of awareness, it's like that does I will never do that again. Like, literally ever do that again. A cup like once a month, whatever it is, like, yeah, but like I will never drink multiple cups or over multiple days. It made me like a fucking insane person.
Yeah. If I don't have fat, I won't drink coffee.
Yeah.
It
I mean,
basically.
I usually put butter in there anyway, but like it didn't really matter. So,
By the way,
um,
that too for me, like I was drinking like coffee with some mushroom stuff in it in the morning, big spike, added butter, almost no spike at all.
interesting.
And so same thing with like fruits. What I've noticed is like if you eat a piece of fruit, you're gonna have a big spike. If you eat some nut butter right before you have the fruit, we'll barely even do that. So like, and this is the thing. Like people think they need like a low fat diet, and to some extent there might be purpose for that. I'm not saying go do like Atkins. That's shown not to be really great either. But like humans, generally speaking, if we just think about it in the most logical sense, probably had access to fruits and berries, as they walked around.
Very, very short window if you think
Right.
about it. Unless you were in like a jungly Caribbean type place where like fruits were plentiful, like most of us were not from those places. So, like, we had fruits 3 months out of the year, four
Yeah,
months out of the year. Like, that's it.
that's true. Otherwise, you were probably eating meat, you know, lard and high fat things, and then there were periods of the year where like vegetables grew, and there's a reason for that too, right? It's like preparation for the cold, even like there could even be a reason for like the like fruits and vegetables that actually make you pack on weight would come right at fall, like right before wintertime, right? Because the body needed to evolve to like store fat. So those foods naturally are going to increase the body's ability to store fat. It's just smart, right? So this is the kind of stuff that we want to like really talk about. And again, like there's other things we can talk about here that we've been doing that I think that are worth people's attention. But like bottom line here, guys, like people are asking like what's the glucose you should go when you eat. They say that your glucose levels should be between about 70 milligrams per deciliter to about 100 to about 110 milligrams per deciliter. How much it should go up is wildly dependent on each individual, but like I would say, a 20 to 30 point spike is pretty average with food. You'll definitely see a much bigger spike when you overeat. That's the other thing you'll start noticing. It's like when I overeat, like, and that makes sense. You're putting this extra stress on the body. It can't keep up. It starts storing. It starts turning things into sugar. It's what's going to happen, right? And so like people are like really really struggling with these things, but it's because they actually have no data. And then even if you go like a naturopath, which is what I would recommend over any any medical doctor, unless you have like an acute condition that needs like extreme help right now, like they're gonna really sit there with you and not take 10 minutes of your time, but take an hour and a half of your time, find out about your lifestyle, your foods, what are you doing, and they're gonna do some pretty thorough blood work. But I gotta tell you, like I'm very fortunate. I get to live with some really smart people, very smart people around me in the medical space and health space, and it's like they are throwing dots in the dark. Like we think medical science is in this really advanced place. It's like it's still being done in a pretty archaic way. There's a reason it's called practice. There's a reason
Yeah.
it's called a medical practice. They're practicing on you, unfortunately, and making these decisions. Now, I'm not saying there's no place for Western medicine. If I have an acute condition, I'm bleeding out, there's something really, really wrong. I need that symptom to stop. Like, I want to do that thing and I want to get my body to stabilize as soon as fucking possible. Then I want to turn to more holistic approach with my medicine. And I think most people, even when they get stabilized, they continue down the Western path and they're actually doing more harm than good to their bodies because when you're treating the body with chemicals, you're going to have a side effect. That's the definition of using a chemical. Like you're not going to put anything chemical in your body that doesn't have a repercussion. It's just no chance. So for most
Yeah.
people,
Okay.
yeah. No, I was going to say most people can get really far ahead with just tweaking their diet and just being much more mindful about what they're putting in their body. And here's like a really easy, cute tip for you. If like you go to a grocery store, the everything that's on the outside, like in the, at the border, is what you should be eating. Everything down the aisles, you should not be. Like, is anything that can sit on the shelf for a long period of time, has preservatives in it, has been processed. Meats should be grass fed. Again, like I know this stuff is more expensive, but you got to realize like what's the cost to your health if you're not doing those things. So it's like you're either going to pay for it now, you're going to pay for it later. It's going to be much more expensive later. So that's my thinking with food and stuff like that.
Yeah. I wanted to say something and
Yeah,
forgot what I was going to say. By the way, Nat is an oat milk. I was drinking oat milk. I loved oat milk.
lots of sugar.
Oat milk is actually terrible for you. I found like all the what's his face milks, like almond milks and oat milk, like they're just awful. Oat milk is littered with pesticides and all sorts of things. Like they basically grow out these farms. I know it tastes awesome. I loved it. And I can tell you, I was drinking it in every protein shake for about 6 months or so before I kind of like found out. As soon as I cut it out, like my body completely changed. Like I just
Mm,
went to water and I was like, whatever, I'll throw more berries and more other things in here. And I got to tell you, it's like night and day.
yeah,
Um,
but here's
for
the thing:
how,
oat milk is super easy to make. You could just go get organic oats and just make it at your house in a few minutes. It's not going to taste store bought, but that's the thing. Like oat milk doesn't taste like store bought. They put gums in it, and I'm not saying I'm not guilty. I love oat milk, and there's a ton of sugar in it. Like
ton,
you can't find unsweetened oat milk. It doesn't even exist, right? Like you can find
yeah,
unsweetened.
even on sweet is like, instead of like 17 grams, it's like 11 or 12 grams. And it's like, honestly, there's no dietary benefit to oat milk.
Yeah,
Like I get it if it's tasty. Some people are lactose intolerant. I get that too. But like if you're just putting it in your coffee, honestly, like whole milk is way better than any of that stuff because it's
especially if
like
you
full
especially
fat.
if you
You
get
can
raw.
like even like heavy cream, honestly, is like full fat is good for you. One other thing that I did want to mention, and this is just like interesting. So sleep is like the most paramount thing that one can focus on. Like if you want to deal with your health, it's like if you can't get a minimum of like 7 hours of good quality sleep, I just want you to get like you're starting every day without that as a baseline, you're starting every day at a deficit. Now, you tell me, when do you operate well in your life? When you're tired and groggy or hungover or not feeling well, how are you as a parent? How are you as an employee? How are you as an entrepreneur? Like, are you operating at your best? Or does everything seem to like upset you or piss you off and like everything's a nuisance and right? Like, so and then build on top of that and build on top of it. So it's like no sleep. Okay, no sleep, no sleep. So now you're pumping cortisol and stressors into your body, which is literally like, a death by a million paper cuts. It's like paper cut. Like you're not going to feel it so much, but it's like over time, it is so detrimental. So sleep is massive. Like one of the first things that anyone should be handling is sleep. And when you start to track your sleep, it's really interesting to note like what works and what doesn't. I had this weird theory that I've been testing out of late. And bro, I don't know if you've like tracked this or anything like that, but right now my wife and I are kind of like we're in a rental property, and like we like to watch like an episode of one of our shows before bed or something like that. And so we're kind of in bed now instead of like in a TV room like we used to have in our old house. So we're in bed, like we're watching the show, etc. And then I'll like dick around my phone for a bit. I put on like a meditation and I go to bed. Um, but what I started to notice is the days that I read, so like I have a Kindle, the days that I read before going to bed, I started to notice this pattern that I just sleep much better. Like I get into deep sleep right away. My quality sleep score is way higher, all this kind of stuff. And so I kept ping ponging. I was like, okay, let me just test this. Reading, not reading, reading, not reading, basically like doing the same other things at bed. And I can tell you that for me, reading before bed has data driven told me that I sleep better when I read. And it could be for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. There's no like, I didn't find like a magical place. But the last thing I do before closing my eyes or like putting on meditation and closing my eyes has been reading. And when I do that, it it works.
Yeah, it does for me as well. And just so somebody was asking, Jivan asked, what about semi-skim milk? I just don't think anything that's not fully in its original form could be nearly good for you as the original form. Like for me, it's like go get raw, unpasteurized, whole fat milk. You're gonna change your fucking life, right? Like,
Yeah.
and in general, you probably shouldn't be drinking milk from another animal anyway because of intolerance. Like guys, it's intolerant because it's not our milk. Like it's not human milk. That's why you're intolerant, right? Like so you can have it certainly. Like my roommate, who's one of the most smartest people I know in the health field, drinks raw Jersey cow milk, right? Like, but he understands like the pasteurization of anything destroys any benefit to your body whatsoever. So if you're drinking pasteurized juices, there's no nutrition there, and all you're doing is getting sugar. Like at least
By
if
the
you're
way,
gonna,
you can take in coffee, so like bulletproof that we were just throwing around, like if you take a tablespoon of butter, like if you like frothy, creamy milk, and you take a half a tablespoon or a tablespoon, whatever you're comfortable with, of butter, and you blend it in a NutriBullet with the coffee, it will be like frothy, creamy, probably better like unsalted, which is generally harder to find. But if you get like grass-fed, unsalted butter and you whip that thing up in a cup or like a frother or whatever, it's delicious.
it is delicious. So there are definitely things that you can be doing. So again, these are all things for you guys to just take note of. Again, not medical doctors. Do your own research and just be mindful. I mean, like honestly, even again, it's really like chemicals that you're using at house to clean your home. Like there's so many things you could be doing to clean your house that don't involve using chemicals. Like you're breathing that stuff in, even after it dries. If your gardener is coming around your house weekly and spraying Roundup just to get rid of fucking weeds in your house, like you're breathing that in. That stuff again is wildly unhealthy, like brain deterioration, like gut deterioration, like everything that controls health, it is destroying in your body. And so these are really really things that Nat's mentioning method. There's a website called Think Dirty or an app called Think Dirty that you guys can download. And if you download that, you can put in the products that you're using around your home and they rate them. They tell you what's the chemical compound in there, the side effects of them. And like there's a lot of products out there, like seventh generation, which you'll think is really, 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 really good for you. And they're really, really not. Like be mindful of the detergents you're using. Like these are things you're putting on your body, the quality of water that you're drinking in your house. Like even if you're cleaning the water in your house, but you're not putting minerals back into it, like again, just little things here. Like when you're drinking purified water, if you're drinking a bottle that says purified water, that's not healthy for you. It's doing the exact opposite. It's not hydrating you because the hydration comes from the mineral compounds in the water, not the water itself. And if there's no mineral compounds in the water, then the water naturally attracts the minerals into it. And so when you're peeing, it's actually pulling the minerals out of your body instead of adding minerals into your body, right? So none of these things are as simple as as they seem. And like again, like for me, like water, it's like sleep. It's one of these fundamental things that you should be doing for your health. There are absolutely things you could be doing in your own home, reverse osmosis, remineralization, that don't cost very much. And make a really, really big difference. Same thing with all these like popularized carbonated drinks. Like they're not mineralized, so there's some evidence that it even has bone degradation because the CO2 and stuff in it. So like these are things you want to be mindful of, that most of us are like, they're marketed like these health products, and they're not. You got to realize these are marketing. This is not like like a body that's sitting there like, oh, this is healthy, we should tell the public. This is companies marketing to you something that's not healthy as a healthy thing so that they can bolster sales. So just that. Another thing that this is going to seem a little bit maybe even crazy to some of you guys, and Elon should talk to it probably more than I have. Elon's had some experience with stem cells at this point in time, and something that I've been using as well. I can't verify this in my own body quite yet. I've had like just pain in my body, like pain in my lower abdomen, pain in my knee, stuff like that. And what's really, really popping right now, that a lot of people could probably get a lot of value from, is doing some research into peptides, as a way to basically revitalize parts of your body. Like we're already there, but really close to like these like legal things where it's like they can regrow cartilage tissue and knees. Even if you're 80, you can have like a knee of a 25-year-old all over again. All these, again, different pain therapies, and a lot of this stuff is in that book that we mentioned, Life Force. So I'm not going to get into all of it, but like we can only share what we've had firsthand experience with, which is these peptides, which can be taken both orally or injected into the body, into specific areas of the body. So if you're experiencing pain, if you want to regrow hair, if you're having skin issues, if you're having gut issues, like peptides are right now being shown to be some of the most helpful therapies possible. They're extremely cost effective. Again, there's some gray stuff here in terms of like they haven't been fully approved by government bodies, but again, since when are government bodies the all told be told on what's good and bad for our bodies? So again, this is something worth doing your own research on. There's so many peptides we can talk about here, so I'm not going to get into the different ones, but I definitely think they're worth mentioning as a way to at least look at how you can repair your own body.
Yeah, I mean, Life Force again like goes into a lot of the peptide side and like the tests that are being run and peer-reviewed studies, et cetera, et cetera. Like I think peptides is going to be one of the biggest thing in the next 5 years, because there's literally a peptide that you can take for everything from
Everything.
weight loss to skin to I just bought. I'm very curious to try off of that book. Like they're the peptide that they put in skin creams now that basically like
Mandy
helps
has
to
Mandy has it already.
bring your skin back to the way it was in your 20s. It just like actually helps your skin get back there. So that I
We
do
also
think like
that one regrows hair too. Mandy has it in we got some
the hair growth one.
the skin and hair one, yeah.
Yeah. And then someone asked before about IV drips. I never used to do them, but when we moved to Boca, it was just something that like we drove by this place. I saw an IV place. I walked in. I contacted a guy. I told him how much they were charging for this like monthly membership, and guy's like, "Are you kidding me? That's like the deal of the century." So my wife and I have started to do IV drips. Can I tell you that it's like changed my life forever? And I was like, "Oh my God, this is the most amazing thing." No, I can't. Having said that, though, um, to me, I'm not like when I think of health, I'm not looking for things that when I do them, I instantly feel this like moment. Like I don't think that that's health. I think that's like a quick fix to something. For me, it's like if I'm putting vitamins directly into my bloodstream, they impact the system better, they last longer. Like how is that not helping me, right? Like I can't tell you that I walk out of there and I'm like walking on a cloud or like anything like that. But over time, I feel like I don't get sick as much. I mean, not that I get really sick. The one other thing that we definitely should mention is probably the supplement that you and I have been taking the longest is it's called Ion, I think now.
Yeah, but just go back to what you were saying. Like to me, the same thing with vitamin drips and stuff like that. It's like, is your energy level high and stable? Do you sleep well? Do you have a lot of inflammation or pain in your body? And if you're no on all those things, then whatever you're doing is probably working pretty damn well, right? Like I know when I was doing IV drips consistently, never got sick. Body composition was always much easier for me. Like so, again, like those are the things that you can look at and you're like, okay, that's probably doing something. And it does, it does feel good to an effect. And again, there's a lot of science backing up like
Yeah.
doing that. And yeah, the last thing to Elon's point, if you guys want, you can go to actually our website, satoriprime.com/restore, because that was the original name of it. It used to be called Restore. Now it's called like Ion Gut
Biome
Biome.
or something.
And Dr. Zach Bush to me is one of the most prevalent minds in like understanding human virology. He had really, really interesting things to say about COVID when it first started and continued to be, and beyond the fact that he's just a fucking brilliant mind and he's restoring soil all over the planet and all this stuff. What they've done is like, if you guys don't know already, like your microbiome inside your body is probably one of the most important things that you need to take care of in order to have great health. If your microbiome is out of whack, like your whole body's out of whack. And so microbiome is basically the bacterial flora in your gut, right? And the reason why a lot of these pesticides and chemicals are so dangerous is it actually breaks the wall lining of your gut down. And it's just a very, very thin piece of lining here that we're talking. It's thinner than a hair follicle. So it's very, very, very thin. And once it becomes porous, that's why we call it leaky gut. And now things that would normally not cross the blood-brain barrier can get in. So even if, like, for example, vaccines, you may think good of them, you may not, but like you taking something like that without protection from your gut, it can go right up into the brain and have really detrimental effects because the body can't actually like filter what's needed and what's not needed. Again, lots of different things, people with all sorts of IBS problems, list goes on and on and on and on. We also know that for every about 10 signals your brain sends up, your brain is sending down one. So there's a lot of activity coming from the center of the body out, informing the rest of the body what's healthy and not healthy. And so a lot of people are into probiotics, and I commend you if you're doing that. However, you want to realize like even probiotics, any sort of strain, if you're just taking a specific strain of probiotics, if you have, I think they say that you have about 40,000 different bacterial strains in the gut, and if you're, taking a certain strain, you may be growing a vertical of that bacteria by feeding it, but then you're not feeding everything else, and so you can actually create a disbalance in the system. And
Exactly.
so what Zach Bush's work has shown and what this has done, we lovingly call it like dirty water. What they do is they basically like they drill down into the planet and they get like 100 million-year-old water, like original like Earth microbiome that's untouched by pesticides and chemicals and all this kind of stuff, and they bottle it so that you can drink this water. And basically what it does is it just evenly feeds the microbiome in the body. And so they call so what they call it is like you have junctions, like these like junctions of your stomach that it can tighten back up and like renew and bring back to its original form, so that your not only is your microbiome healthy, but your these junctions tighten up. And essentially what you want to realize is that by again chemicals, what they're doing is they are breaking down your communication network in your body. Okay, so it's like if you were like a Wi-Fi network, right? There's a source of energy, and that's what's keeping everything connected and informed. If you break down the communication network of your body, then let's say you have a cell that's unhealthy, and the cell is trying to communicate to the body that it's lacking nutrients, it's not getting what it needs, and so please send it, and the body's not getting that signal. Guess what? That cell is beginning to degrade and die, and just like everything else before it dies, it will choose to, in order to carry on its DNA, will choose to dramatically increase its like it will multiply itself over and over again in an attempt to try to save its
Try to
DNA.
help communication. Yeah.
Yeah, and right, because it's like it's trying to like save its information, so to speak, and that's cancer, right? And that could be a reason why people get cancer is like literally the cell just can't communicate to the body, and so it's begins to become malignant and just to self-replicate in order to preserve itself. And so again, by rebuilding this network, communication network in the body, you can offset, potentially some very, very serious problems in your life. And I've seen a lot of people gain better mood from this, greatly enhance their health. And he has amazing case studies of people whose hair has become grayed out that changes back to their original color, stuff like this. And so, again, Dr. Zach Bush, absolutely fucking incredible. And again, if you want to see the product, let me just double check that that website's still working, but I believe it's toriprime.com/restore. And yeah, if you do buy the product, just know that that is an affiliate link from us. So
Yeah,
we wouldn't.
honestly, like again, it's not like I took it and I was like, oh my God, the lights are on. And I can tell you from, I think this is the supplement that I've honestly taken the longest of anything. It's got to be at least 5 years that
Yeah.
this is like in my daily regimen all the time. Um, you just stop getting sick. Like I've been in my house where literally everyone around me is sick, and it's like I just don't get sick.
Yeah.
It, again, like if you don't, I would go listen to a Zach Bush podcast about him talking about it, and then like if you are not just absolutely blown away by this man and what he does, and like, but yeah, I think that's the most supplement that we use the most. And then the last thing I will just throw in here is drinking water without electrolytes in it. Like whether you're an athlete or not an athlete, it doesn't really matter. Like hydration for the human body is one of the most important things. So when we drink water, it tends to like strip our bodies of minerals and nutrients. And so just like there's so many of these electrolytes. Like I don't like any of the ones that are flavored, but they have tons of ones that are flavored, etc. And it's like just put whatever, like a dropper or a spoonful or whatever it is of the one that you get in a bottle of water. Like I'll drink probably like 4 to 6 of these a day. And I just put like a spoonful and it has like sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, like all these things that help your body run so efficiently and help your body stay hydrated. That I can tell you has made one of the biggest differences in my life. From I play a lot of tennis. I play tennis like 5 times a week on average. Like there's a lot of wear and tear, right, on the body. I can tell you from working out recovery, tennis recovery, less muscle soreness, like all of these things simply from doing that. I mean, like cramps, like it's not even a thing anymore. But that was not like a big thing for me. But just recovery, like not being as fatigued on the court, like all these things. If you listen to any pro athlete, they say like hydration happens 2 hours prior to you doing whatever activity you're doing. So like most people don't think about that. But yeah, electrolytes have been a huge addition to my health regimen.
I know even first year of life with Jaden, when we were really, really lacking sleep, was when I actually introduced electrolytes into my diet on a regular basis. And I'm saying like today, I just have like a dropper with trace minerals in
Yeah.
it, and I put it into everything and a few other things like in my cocktail. But it was like an immediate change in how much energy we had and how well I was sleeping. And I literally wrote the company 'cause at the time. It's this local company here that uses like organic material, and I was like, I want to be your affiliate because it was such a big change in how we felt. And they were like, "Oh my God," I was like raving about it. Like the affiliate split was terrible, so I didn't do it. But like, but at the end of the day, it was a tremendous difference. And then the last thing I do want to add in here is like cold and hot therapy,
Yeah.
and well, just a few things. Like just thinking about mobility in a little bit of a different way. Like even again, glucose monitor. Like I regularly now walk after I have a meal. Wow, does that make a big difference? Oh my God. 20-30 minute walk. I mean, we all kind of like intuitively know this. Like you go eat, you're a little full, you walk and you just digest food better. But from a glucose perspective, holy bananas, right? Because again, the moment you walk, even if it's mildly vigorously, all that sugar needs to go to the muscles right away. And so you're actually using the energy that's in the body. You're gonna see a big fucking difference doing that. And then just like or rethinking mobility. It's like, okay, maybe you're not a gym rat, maybe you don't like to go work out. Could you do 10 minutes of something every day? Like the body requires so little of our attention. It's mind blowing like how resilient this body is, like for the amount of junk. and crap that people put into their bodies, whether it's just junk food or alcohol, and like, yeah, people get sick, but it takes like 30, 40 years, for them to really get sick. Like your body's ability to keep going, to clean itself is just, it blows your freaking mind, right? So it's like what you want to give it in return is pretty little. Obviously, we're all stagnating, sitting here. Well, and I've been sitting here for an hour. The next thing I'm going to do after this podcast is over, I'm going to sit here and do like really quick squats, some push-ups, like just some light dynamic, stretches and stuff like that, even if it's just for 2 or 3 minutes. Get the blood moving. Let your body know that you love it. It takes so little. These like little micro things really, really build up over time to something very special. And then the last thing, is just like cold and hot. Like if you can get into a sauna regularly, if you can go do cold plunges regularly. I know people like avoid these things, but believe it or not, they become quite addictive when you do them. And managing inflammation in the body and helping the body recover, this will help with sleep. This will help with your ability to recover. And as you get older, I'm less concerned about muscle. No, muscle mass is very important actually, but like I'm much more concerned with how readily my body can recover from anything that I do.
Exactly.
Like how and like so stretching and flexibility. Like I really focused on hip flexibility this last year, and this is also for spiritual reasons because like having fluidity in your physical body adds fluidity to your emotional body. So many people are doing the things, but like their physical body is literally not fluid enough. That's why qigong and tai chi are these practices that connect, your energetic body to your physical body. And I was like, I don't know about you, but you want to do a simple test, like sit in the squat. Sit in the squat position. How long can you sit in the squat? Is it comfortable for you? Are you straining? What parts of you are straining? And for a lot of people, like I used to get into a squat and like my hips would really hurt after like a minute of sitting in a squat, like
Yeah.
really, really painfully. And I was like, okay, that's just what happens, right? But that's not what happens. That also happens when you sit in a chair all the time and you're in a sedentary lifestyle. And I was like, that's no bueno. Like I'm not into that. I want hip
You know,
flexibility. Yeah, and so like I went and got this flexibility program. Oh yeah, and I want to talk about one more thing here. And I just started doing like, 15, 20 minutes of stretches every day. Now I can sit in a squat position for an hour. It's like it's so restful, it's so enjoyable that the first thing I do in the morning when I brush my teeth is I sit in a squat for 2 to 3 minutes while I brush my teeth. It's the last thing I do, 2 to 3 minutes. But when I brush my teeth in the middle of the day, if I'm talking to somebody, I'll just pop into a squat. And so, to that effect, with this in mind, again, not going to go way too much into this, but there's a program out there called Knees Over Toes
I love
that
him.
that Elon has been doing for a lot longer than I have. And he recommended it like, I don't know, 6 months or a year ago. You can follow him on Instagram. It's called, just type in Knees Over Toes because we've all been told not to put our knees over our toes when we stretch. This guy is literally redeveloping biophysicality and how to put strength into the body in areas that most of us have little to no strength at all. You'll be shocked doing some of these exercises, like with zero weight, how you can barely do them. And it's just because that muscle group is completely not developed in the way that we move our bodies right now. And again, this is all not just about your ability to move better, but to like make the body bulletproof from injuries and stuff like that. And that's really, to me, it's like that's what I want to think about. It's like lower back pain, knee pain, hip pain, foot pain. Like, what are the things that people really talk about a lot that everyone's dealing with? And guess what? That's all lifestyle based, and
Yep.
it doesn't have to be that way at all. If you just do a little research and you find out, okay, what are the things out there that completely take this away? Because it's we work with some really awesome practitioners, and one of the guys we work with, which is this fascial counter strain practitioner, also an absolutely amazing therapy. And he tells me all the time, he goes, pain is totally normal. Like someone having a pain is totally normal. Having chronic pain, totally not normal. But
Yeah.
in society, we've completely accepted that as you age, chronic pain is just part of living. He's like, absolutely not. He goes, the body responding to pain, totally normal. Chronic pain, totally not normal. That's just been normalized in society. So, yeah, I know I'm giving a lot there, but these are like really, really profound things that we are using functionally. I've only been doing knees over toes for like 2 months, and it's like it's incredible
It's
the
incredible.
difference. Incredible the difference. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's like usable strength and flexibility in ways that like if you want to feel good in your body and all of a sudden like where you raised your arm before and it was like, "Oh," and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, look at all that range of motion. And like that to me, I don't know, it just gets me excited. And it healed my knee, and like my legs are so strong now when I play tennis. It's like, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know we threw a ton of stuff at you guys, but listen, like, this is not like what we train people in our programs, and it becomes a very natural part of the extension of what you do when you bring this awareness effect into your life. Like, this just becomes second nature. So I hope that this podcast finds you feeling good and feeling healthy. If you want to start, exploring like mind, health, and body, I hope this gave you some really, really good tips and things to explore further. And we look forward to seeing you in our communities, on Facebook, and wherever you guys want to follow us. And yeah, hopefully in our programs one day soon.
Love you guys.
Bye for now.